Hey everyone, welcome to the Off the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Bryanna Winner, and it is time to talk about week 13 of the NFL season. I am here with Brandon First, aka First Report, Raider Jim, and Coach Brandon Lupian to talk about their picks as well as each division that their respective divisions as well as the rest of the games. So how are all of you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's as well as you can be for an Eagle fan. We're trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Well, your team did just go down to third.
Terrible. Well, it's over. I mean, this season, beyond the loss and beyond the division. I mean, it's the fact that you can't get more than 3 seconds in the pocket without being just absolutely smashed back there. Everybody seems to want to kill Carson. I think the coaching staff has to go first. Carson just signed a huge contract too, so he's not going anywhere no matter what behind him. But for me, doing well. Ready to dive into week 13. It's been a very odd week. It's the first time we've ever done the podcast on a Wednesday, a couple hours after a game just ended. So there was a little scrambling trying to figure out what the lines were for Pittsburgh's game and Baltimore's game, but we got that figured out. So ready to get into week 13. Excited.
Okay, Raider Jim, your team got destroyed.
We got destroyed, and quite honestly, if I'd have really paid close attention and looked at some of the more intricate variables of the schedule, Raiders don't travel well. They just don't travel well. They stepped up big for that game in Kansas City early in the season, and after that, they've had their issues. What can I say? And old high school coach told me once, when you get beat, you just say you got beat, and you don't make excuses, which is one thing I always appreciate about anybody in the Raider Nation. None of us make excuses. None of us are apologists. When we get our asses kicked, we get our asses kicked, and that's it. It makes you a little more bitter and makes you a little more silver and black, or black and blue.
Well, maybe. Derek Carr did say that the practices this last week did feel off. I think I saw that on his Instagram, but he also did just welcome a baby girl. So, I mean, he's overjoyed no matter what happened this week.
There was a period in time when I took care of a newborn, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old all at the same time, and damn it, I persevered. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, which is why I'm saying, his daughter came the next day, but At least he's got something that was cheerful that happened during the week.
Right, absolutely.
Hey, Coach Lupian. I can't say
how was your
Thanksgiving?
Bryanna, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. I mean, my parents would come home and we just had IHOP. So
hey, what's wrong with that?
Nothing. It was pancakes. It was breakfast for dinner.
Nice.
As long as you're with family.
Yeah. I do breakfast for dinner all the time. There's no shame in that. But there is shame in your Raiders, Raider Jim. I'm so disappointed in them.
What does that have to do with anything?
God.
You went from pancakes and IHOP to, and Raiders, your team's an embarrassment.
Well, I can't do anything bad for the Saints because they did just beat a team that had no quarterback, which we will talk about in a bit.
We just keep rolling, but I leap into the Raiders-Falcons game because it's going to be a Falcons-Saints game, and I'm like, gosh. I don't want them feeling good coming into this week. And they just laid an egg for us.
Right. Did nothing to help you.
Right. Didn't do nothing. So we keep rolling. I'm excited for today. I'm more excited about this podcast versus watching San Diego State basketball in St. Catharines, for goodness sake. So let's just get rolling.
Is that a GoAztecs.com situation again, Coach?
You know what? I honestly don't know this time, but I do believe the Pepperdine game that got scheduled, I texted you guys, will be. So I'm looking more forward to watching San Diego State Pepperdine versus the Firehawks or the Firebirds or Firestorm.
Firebirds, I believe. But
yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Before we do the picks, let's talk about the whole Denver fiasco with no quarterbacks and the fact that Baltimore was able to get their game postponed, 4 times?
Yeah. It's...
You know what? Let me start because it's going to be real quick. My boys just keep on eating. It doesn't matter if if they had a quarterback or not. We're going to win that game. All props due to the kid that stepped in, though, because talk about an impossible situation. This kid hadn't played quarterback in 2 seasons. And, yeah, when he was a quarterback at Wake Forest, you know, it's Wake Forest. They're nothing to talk about in the ACC. So all props to the kid just being out there under center, giving it his all. It's unfortunate that he just had to face probably the hottest team in the league by far. You know, so it's too bad. The NFL really dropped the ball on this one, given the fact that they've rescheduled Baltimore how many times by now and didn't give any relief to the Broncos. But who here cares about the Broncos? Raider Jim, I don't think you do, right?
No, not so much.
All right. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, and I think that's kind of the underlying thing here is it's the Broncos, and they can kind of just, whatever, you know, we'll deal with you. We don't want to upset the Saints schedule. We don't want to upset anything else, AFC West, you know, who knows, down the road with the Raiders or the Chiefs down. I'm not sure how the schedule goes, but I think you're exactly right in terms of with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, that's the marquee game. It was already a nightmare that it was moved off of the Thanksgiving, considering the other tomato cans we had to watch. And it was also very quietly moved to 12:40 Pacific time today.
Right.
I didn't know that until I opened the NFL app and saw it at 10 in the morning, my time. Like, whoa. I texted Bryanna like, hey, let's go on at noon for our early podcast so we can get going so we can watch it. And it wasn't a very good game. It was a Wednesday game. It was kind of what you would expect, but it's at the end of the day, the NFL owes the Broncos, whether or not we care about the Broncos or they're a factor or not, they owe them an apology. And honestly, I look at Philip Lindsay, who got hurt. I don't know the severity of it, but this is a situation where he is put into a hostile work environment, a situation. Right. Yes, you do get hit a lot. But that is almost similar to putting a hurt player in, a hurt quarterback in that, you know, they force these guys to take unnecessary hits. I go back to the fact that nobody on this podcast or a football fan would stop. And if they say, hey, January 3rd, we got 3 games we got to put in, we got to fill in on that Sunday. So the playoffs have been put off for 1 week. The Super Bowl's on February 20th. And so is anybody not watching? That's not the case. So the NFL, there are so many escape routes and they just took the easy way out. And it's still, I mean, the Niners, we go back to what happened with the Niners, and the Niners are their golden boy franchise too. So the Baltimore Ravens situation, mainly the Broncos situation, I'm sorry. It was unfortunate, especially that it was the Saints they had to run into, like Coach said. Right. That is a hungry defense.
Yeah, it was a travesty all the way around. And I'll tell you the way I see it through my eyes, the NFL is chugging along, duct tape and chewing gum, keeping the season rolling. They've had minimal disruption. And at this point, it's not an inconvenience to do 1 more week, to postpone the playoffs. But they are looking at, boy, we've been lucky to this point, and what if it really gets worse before it gets better? So they're setting themselves up on the science side to possibly lose that bet. With that, who cares? Somebody had to be a sacrificial lamb, and in this case, it was the Denver Broncos. And my outlook on the whole thing is, at some point, I guess if the professionals and the team owners and everybody's just going to buy into it and allow it to happen, if you are going to roll the dice against COVID, so be it. You get what you get. But at the same time, I sent a note to one friend of mine asking, so do you know what's happening with that game? What would your pick be? And I said, well, let's see if it even plays. And I started sending him notes. And when I was sending him notes for the NFL, I just changed the F to a $sign in NFL, because that's really what it all boils down to. It's all about the dollars and cents. I'm not buying for a minute they care about the health and safety of what's really going on out there. And some of the owners too, for that matter. But again, they're all big boys. They're all grown men. They all make their own decisions. And if they choose to be out there instead of those who step back, like in Major League Baseball, and said, no thanks, I got other things. Buster Posey. If Buster Posey can step back and say, I cannot do this in of clear conscience, well, then other people are able to do that too. So
one other thing that I think hurts the NFL is they're not like baseball or all the other sports. Everything is so spread out. I mean, you have the Dallas Cowboys who are in the NFC East. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars who play in the same division as the, Indianapolis Colts. We're talking about time zones in the same division. So it's not like when the MLB where you can say, hey, Padres, the furthest you're going is Texas and you're doing it one weekend. And that's
right.
That can't be the case. Philadelphia's got to go to Texas. Texas or Dallas has to go to Philadelphia, and they have to go to New York or Jersey. So it's just such a dollar sign situation.
Right.
I mean, they should have at least postponed the Broncos like a day or two.
Yeah.
They did this because they did it for the Ravens and the Steelers. Why couldn't they have done it for the Saints and the Broncos? Right. 2 days wasn't going to kill them.
Here's my final thought on this, because there's negligence all around. The NFL's part, definitely the Denver Broncos part, ownership to GM, to coaching staff, to positional coaches. There's negligence. From what I understand, us here and every other talk show, radio, on TV, whatever podcast, are putting up more arms up in the air than the actual Denver Broncos. So they did something wrong at the end. Whether they had to play it the way they had to play it or not, I'm assuming they took ownership at that point. But it is. Who's making a fuss of it in Denver? Nobody. Not even their radio shows.
Yeah.
It's us.
Right.
It's us. So there's negligence all around. It is what it is. It's unfortunate that it happened. Because I could say, you know what, the Saints really could have used 2 extra days of delay, because Teron Armstead tested positive, but it could have been a false positive at that point. We could have waited 2 more days for it and had a full front line plan, but we didn't. So all around, there's negligence. Yeah, money speaks, right, at the end of the day. And regardless, the spread, the win-loss, the records, whatever, it is what it is at this point in this horrible 2020. But again, we're putting up more up in arms about it than anybody else. And there's no grievance filed by the Denver Broncos organization, because they know they messed up somewhere. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Perfect.
Sorry.
No, that was perfect wrap up to that, because that's a great point.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the AFC West. So we're going to start with New England at the Los Angeles Chargers. Brandon, I don't know what the spreadsheet's supposed to say.
Oh, did I mess up? Oh, pick 'em. I'm sorry. That means it is a
pick 'em.
Yes, it's a pick 'em.
Okay.
It just means it's you pick 'em and there's no spread. It's pretty much a money line game. I apologize.
And
I should explain.
Okay.
Pretty interesting, because the line actually started as Chargers were a 1.5 point favorite. They were -1.5. It's moved to pick 'em, and made me scratch my head all the way around, because I wouldn't give the Chargers the courtesy home advantage in this one. My old buddy Bill Belichick, he's doing his thing, and he's going to start. He's going to put together. Now it's just a matter of, if I can't win it all, if I can't take it all, I'm at least going to make life miserable for the people I'm playing. And so there's always a motive, and there's always a method to his thinking. And the Chargers, let's just face it, they are just on a downward spiral in true Charger fashion. Wow. What do you say about them? They didn't give up the big one to the Jets, but by gosh, they tried. They certainly tried. This one, though, they're hosting the Patriots at home. I think Patriots are going to come in and take care of business. At Pick'em, I would take New England straight up. The over-under on this one is 47. And I just see the Chargers struggling. I think New England will put up points, but I don't see them going over that. So I think I would just take New England straight up and under 47 on this one.
Okay, Coach Lupian.
I actually like the under as well. However, I am a little bit more optimistic than Raider Jim is about the former team that occupied Qualcomm Stadium. I actually like them as a pick-em. The odds makers and whoever sets these lines put it very close for a reason. They see something that everyone else isn't. And I actually like it for them being at home, given the fact that they did play tough last weekend. They've always been in positions to ruin games, and they just ruined them. And I just like the under, and I actually like that team as the pick 'em.
Yeah, the Pats, like the Patriots, we all saw last week. I think it was 87 yards for Cam Newton. It was as bad as you can really have ever seen the Patriots, at least in the Bill Belichick era. But the Chargers are in turmoil. How Anthony Lynn still has a job, the decision making is. The Chargers aren't a playoff team in my mind, but I also don't think they're a top 10 draft team. I think they're at number 6 right now if the season were to end. Anthony Lynn is essentially just playing things out. I think also when that happens, Justin Herbert's smart enough to know that, hey, do I really want to invest myself in this system knowing everyone's just going to flip this table over in 6 weeks to 2 months when whoever the new guy comes in?
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and say that he's that type of guy, but it's got to be in his head at some point. And I'll tell you this right now. You want to talk about coaching mismatches? I don't care if you got the wide receiver who played quarterback for the Broncos this past week. This is a huge coaching mismatch with Belichick and against Anthony Lynn, and with someone who I'll get to, I'll talk to with a heavy heart, but with the exit of Matt Patricia, I think Anthony Lynn has now the case for just the worst coach in the NFL. And the one thing Belichick struggles against is quarterbacks who are mobile and are out of the pocket. Herbert isn't really that guy. He can do that, but that's not his game. I think Belichick always has something dialed up for these rookie quarterbacks that come at him. He's going to have something ready for him. I like the Patriots in this one. And I actually kind of like it going the other way. I like the over just because I think at 46, I think the Patriots know they're going to have to score just because, look, even with Belichick keeping Herbert down, he's still going to get his. He's still probably going to throw for a couple touchdowns. They're still probably going to put up 21, 24 points. So I think Belichick is putting extra emphasis on just putting points on the board somehow, some way, and focusing on stopping Joey Bosa. So I like the over, so we can't go unanimous on this one. But give me New England and the over 47.
Yeah, and to your point,
so real quick, Raider Jim, before we move on to the next game, let's take this prop bet. Who's going to be the next coach of that team? I got 5 on Eric Bieniemy.
Ooh,
that'd be a good pick.
That would be a good pickup. I think that makes too much sense. That makes way too much sense for that organization. They're gonna get a quarterback's coach that we don't know about right now. The same thing they did with Anthony Lynn. That's just what I would say. I don't even want to put a name on it because I let's just call him quarterback coach. Doe. But that's where I would go. But Eric Bieniemy, I think he'll be a head coach for sure at the end of the year.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Raider Jim.
Yeah, no. And then the last thing on that game, also speaking to Brandon's first point, the Charger defense, you mentioned Joey Bosa, that's about all they got. That linebacking core and that secondary makes the Raider defense look pretty good. And the Raider defense, the secondary and linebackers, don't leave a lot on the table at the end of the game except what happened, who was supposed to cover, who blew the coverage. So, I think they're going to end up having a long day out there. That's that thing. Bosa's good, but it's like when Khalil Mack was on the Raiders. That's one guy.
Yeah.
You know, you need the other two to step up and play and support him, because there's only so much that one guy can do. So we'll see what happens, but I think the Patriots are going to come out on top. You want me to go Chiefs Denver next?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just say we hope that the Denver Broncos have a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, and this is
it's either way, this game is going to be probably brutal.
Yeah, and you know, again, looking at the conspiracy theories of the NFL, we talked about, were they favoring the Ravens by giving them so many opportunities, and what happened with the Denver Broncos, and why were they forced, you know, with no quarterbacks to play? Well, and now the Broncos get to go in and play against the rested Kansas City Chiefs, because we don't want to upset their apple cart either. So you know, there they are. Denver gets to limp in literally to Arrowhead Stadium. Weather's going to be fine. There's no snow. There's no nothing. It's just going to be brutally cold, I think. Brutally cold from San Diego boy standards. So cold for me. But right now, the line opened at Chiefs minus 13. It's gone a point, so now it's 2 full touchdowns, minus 14. The over-under is at 51. 51, that's if Mahomes does his thing and really puts up his 38 points or something like that. Other than that, I don't see Denver scoring a lot. 2 touchdowns, that's still, it is Kansas City in Kansas City, and they're rolling. How hard are they really going to need to go and want to go, given they're getting that much closer to the playoffs? You know, we're down to that last third of the season or something like that. So, but Kansas City minus 14. I would take Kansas City straight up on this one. Over under at 51. I think they're just going to roll it up. So give me over 51 on that too.
Going 44 is not that bad. I just looked at the weather. 44 is not that bad. And I'm from Los Angeles.
It is for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't want to deal with that.
I did for 4 years. Plus worse.
So, Raider Jim, you took the minus 14 and the over? And the over?
Over under 51.
Over under 51. You know, I'm really concerned with the over more than anything. I do believe Kansas City has the firepower to cover. It was a little discouraging watching their game against Tampa Bay last week. I just don't like the fact that they kept Tampa Bay in the game when they really put the nail on the coffin, you know, early on. But this is a whole different week, whole different scenario. Team, quarterback. I like the plus 4, the minus 14. Over 51, I'm just a little up in the air about. I think they could pump the brakes a little bit. Let me stick with the under on the 51. Unless it's 52-0, I could see that too now. But I'm going to go under 51 to cover the 14 though.
I'm going to be the contrarian on this one in terms of when I look at Kansas City, their last 3 home games, it's been a loss to the Vegas Raiders when they were, I want to say 10-point favorites, but it could have been 9.5, could have been 8, but it was in that area. Then we go to the Jets, and look, they took care of business against the Jets. It was a big number, but look, it's the Jets. You kind of expect that. But last time out, it was Carolina, and that was not a easy game, let alone cover for Kansas City. Right. We talked about Tampa Bay. They let Tampa Bay stick around. I know it's Tom Brady and a ton of weapons, and we're not exactly talking that way with Denver, but Kansas City is, even if they get up 31-0, I think somehow, some way it ends 34-24. They're going to just kind of take deep breaths. They're going to slow things down. I was kind of explaining to my brother who's, just learning football. I was explaining him the spread, and it was perfect during the Eagles game, because if you ever want to learn about how finicky the spread can be, that Eagles Seahawks game will tell you all about that. But talking about it in terms of, can you see this team? coaches don't care about what the spread is. You know what the coach care about is who gets the W at the end of it. 31-30 is the same as 31-0. At least totally. I mean, not overall. I know there's other things that go into it. I think Denver is able to keep it close. I also think, who knows, maybe this week for the Broncos quarterbacks was a chance for them to go, hey, let's just go all in on Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City's doing that to Denver. So who knows? That might work out. I do like the over, though, but I'm like Coach Lupian. I don't really know which way it's going to go. So when that happens, and it's Patrick Mahomes involved, I just bet the over because, I mean, like you kind of alluded to, he could put it up himself. So I'll take Denver. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit and buy half a point to get to 14.5 because I do think that could be key. And if anybody else wants to do that, feel free, but that's just that number. And 51, yeah, I said I like the over there just because Mahomes is going to put his points up. And I think the offense has to be better, right? It has to be better from Denver. And no fans at Arrowhead as well. That's another thing.
Right.
It's not a fortress like it's been.
Speaking of the Broncos, all of their quarterbacks were fined for not wearing masks, even when they're just watching game replays. So now we're going to move on to Raider Jim's Las Vegas Raiders, who certainly should have won last week, who should definitely win this week. And I swear, if you give the Jets their first win, I'm going to go nuts. So they're going to be at the New York Jets. The Raiders are favored by 8 points, and the over-under is 47.5. If you give them their first win, I'm seriously going to go crazy.
No, I don't think the Jets are going to win this. Jets haven't, well, of course, they haven't won all season, which means they haven't won at home. They almost pulled the on-the-road upset when they were playing the Chargers a couple of weeks back. But I will tell you, the Raiders will win the game, but the Jets are going to cover. So take the Jets +8 all day long, because I think it's going to end up being a 4-point game, 6-point game. It's not going to be an 8-point game. The Jets or the Raiders defense just doesn't seem to have it in them to do that. And they got a little bit dinged up last week on top of it all. So they'll go in, they'll have finally put together, you have to go play the Jets if you want to put together a good road game if you're the Raiders right now. But they're going to go out there. They will take care of business. 47.5. I think there's going to be scoring, again, just by virtue of the two defenses that are on the field. So I can see this coming down to, 34-28 type of a thing. And there's your 52 points right there. So take the Jets +8 on this game, and then take the over at definitely over 47.5.
I'll go second on this one. There are just some teams at this point in the season I just can't bet. You just bit me too many times, or I've been snake bitten too many times, and unfortunately the Raiders have been that team. The Jets +8 is good here. I also look at Adam Gase, a miracle upon miracles to keep his job. But there's also a lot of chatter in the New York media and the insiders, at least with the Jets, that look, Sam Darnold, it's do or die time. These last 5 games, it might be time to draft another quarterback, go back to the drawing board. So what do these guys have in them? This is now gut check time, at least definitely for Gase. There's nothing he can do, but we can make all the jokes we want about Adam Gase, but he's getting towards the end. But for Sam Darnold, this is the fork in the road. This is it. If he wants to be a NFL quarterback, this is the time to do it. With that being said, me taking the Jets +8 doesn't mean I'm saying that happens this week. I just, like Raider Jim said, I think this is a close enough game to keep the cover. And in terms of the over under, I think the weather is going to be a big factor, but I also do like, and I say that not knowing what the weather is.
No elements.
Sorry?
Cold and no elements.
Beautiful. Okay, so that is awesome. And I'm still hesitant as to what Derek Carr we get, because he's been so good and yet so bad as well. So I am going to take the over, though, because of the defense that is just not – both defenses are scream over, let's be honest.
Hey, Coach Lupian.
I guess that leaves me, right? So, real quick, Raider Jim, I'm putting you under the microscope. Did Derek Carr sign an extension? That's my first question.
I believe, yeah, he's sitting pretty good.
All right, because I was going to go with this is the game of two quarterbacks that are probably the future Saints quarterback after this season. I don't like the Jets. I think Sam Darnold has checked out, just like the entire organization has checked out, in waiting for Trevor Lawrence, who, if they don't start building anything, Trevor Lawrence is going to have the same kind of fate Sam Darnold has. I don't know too much about them to say they're not gonna cover the 8. So you know what? I'm gonna go with the two consensus picks right now, and that is the Jets do cover the -8 and the over. Then. All right.
Yeah, and I just want to update he did sign an extension, and he will be with the Raiders, at least under contract, through the 2022 season.
Which we're calling Super Bowl year.
He won't be a Saint next year, so that leaves Sam Darnold. Draft day trade.
Interesting.
Those are my two predictions. Eric Bieniemy, next Charger coach. Sam Darnold traded draft day to the Saints. Future quarterback, successor to Drew Brees.
I like it.
Put it out there.
Okay, and now moving on to the Saints, we're going to go into the one NFC South game that we've got this week, which is New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. New Orleans is favored by 3 points. The over-under is 46. I mean, considering what Atlanta just did, how do you think this game's going to go, Coach Lupian?
You know, listening to Raider Jim talk about how bad the defense is of the Raiders, I still have faith in my boys to cover the spread. They are 4-0 against the spread the last 4 games. And they've been covering the under as far as the over-under with Taysom Hill under center the last 2 games. So I do believe they'll cover the spread. The defense is on fire. This defense isn't what the Raiders is by far. The front line is just hungry. They love beating up Matt Ryan. They love beating up the Falcons. There is questions about Julio Jones being that outside threat. I guess he got a little minor injury against the Raiders last week. So he is more than questionable. What's after questionable?
Doubtful.
So whatever that is. Yeah, doubtful. He's doubtful for the game. Teron Armstead, though, for the Saints is out. He's our starting left tackle. He did test positive for COVID prior to the Denver game. And then Andrews Pete, he's been out. So there's 2 holes in the offensive line that were addressed or filled in for the Denver game, and there wasn't much to say about that because, you know, Denver is what they was. But I do anticipate the Saints to cover even at Atlanta. I think the defense is just rolling, and I see similarities to last season's Teddy Bridgewater filling in, where everybody else stepped their game up, especially that defense, to get Teddy that 5-0 starting record. And I'm seeing it the same with Taysom. The Saints have been run ball control with Taysom behind center, eating up a lot of clock. And, you know, they know Taysom's going to run. No one's been able to stop it. The linebacking core is shoddy as is. And I don't see them doing anything new, especially offensively, to cover that spread. So I'm going Saints to cover, and I'm going to go with the under just because that's the way the numbers have been telling us to a Taysom under center. He is missing some reads. That's kind of been my concern. He's been missing some reads in critical areas. And that's a concern scoring, especially in just beyond the red zone. Not in the red zone, just beyond the red zone. So watching a little video analysis, they're opening my eyes up to some deficiencies in his passing arsenal. So run the ball.
Yeah. I think this is one of the more easy picks of the weekend, honestly. I mean, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that it was the start of the Taysom Hill thing, and I picked Atlanta to cover that because I thought this was, if you're going to get a team in the situation that the Saints were with Taysom Hill and knowing that it was going to be a complete opposite game plan from Drew Brees, I thought there would be some stumbling, and there was, but the defense was really the difference. It kept them under control, and it allowed the Saints to kind of catch their breath, and then they got rolling. Since then, the offense has been rolling now with Taysom Hill, like Coach alluded to. The Falcons had their chance 2 weeks ago to get this team, like I said, when it was the first game with Taysom Hill. I don't think the home field is that big of an advantage here, that it just flips everything, and all of a sudden the Falcons are going to cover, let alone win this game. I think 3 is way too low of a number, so I'm a big fan. I do like the over 46 because I see this being a 34-24 game. It's the Saints defense has been good, but there've been some missteps along the way. And I do think the Atlanta offense, this is it. This is their, last stand, if you will, their Alamo. There's nowhere else to go after this. They have to win this game. And I think that's something that they want to take advantage of, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Saints, which I think will be a problem. So give me the over side of things, but I definitely like the Saints to cover 3 and a lot more, but I will gladly take 3.
One concern that I do have is the health of Janoris Jenkins in the secondary. He did get carted off or limped off against Denver. He is questionable for this game, but if Julio Jones isn't playing, then the loss of Jenkins might not hurt as bad as if Julio was in. So I don't see the Saints giving up more than 20. I don't know where that number will come from. They're just flying around the ball, and they're really playing lights out. I think, you've alluded to on a number of shows that you haven't seen a Saints defense like this since the Super Bowl time. And these guys are feeding off each other. And then Quan Alexander is making play after play lately, and it's just like, man, welcome to the system. Way to get us better. So I'm going to go with what I read, what I've researched as far as the under-over. And with Taysom under center, they've been 2 games under the under. So I'm going to go with that just because I don't believe in the opposing team as well. So I'm going to stick with that. I like the Saints to cover, and I'm going with the under. Raider Jim, go for it.
Yeah, so you're right. This is the 3rd week without Drew Brees. And when Drew Brees went down and everybody, oh my gosh, now what are we going to do? And now they're going to have to play the Falcons. And I think my remarks during that podcast were, that is big. That's a huge hit to a team. You don't lose a leader like Drew Brees. What are you going to do? But one of my key points was the defense sits on the sidelines, huddles up and says, we got to do the job. We got to keep us in the game. We got to keep Atlanta off the field. We got to keep them out of the end zone. End of that story was when at game time, Saints were -3.5. They ended up winning 24-9. The Falcons could not move against the Saints defense. It's going to be a duplicated effort. It's going to be the same thing all over again. For all intents, they blew them out. They beat them by 2 full touchdowns. They beat them by 15 points, but they don't have to put up those 30, 40 points like they might if, the old days of Drew Brees against Matt Ryan. That's not the game you're going to get. And the Falcons have been like an inconsistent stock. 1 minute the earnings are up and it's looking pretty good. And then you look 30 days later and all of a sudden the shares are going down, 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 down. They had their big game. That was last week against a subpar defense. They took apart the Raiders. They're not going to do that again. They might be riding high. They might be feeling good about it, that Saints defense isn't the Raider defense. So just look for the same effort that they put forward, almost a similar game to what they put forward on November 22nd. Again, 24-9, they put up 33 points between them. The over-under right now is at 49, or was 49.5 then. Right now it's, get that? If somebody knows it, yell it out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's 46 right now. 46. I think they're going to stay under on that, but the Saints cover the 3, no problem.
Yeah, definitely. That's a consensus, at least on the spread side of things. And the Jets one was as well. We are all on the Jets +8 and over as well. So just a little update there. But yeah, the Saints -3. I think that's like I said, really kind of one of the real picks of the day. I don't play every game, but that's definitely one that I will be playing.
Okay, moving on to the NFC least, where Brandon first Eagles have now moved down to 3rd. We're going to start off with the New York Jets at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are favored by 10, and the over-under is 48.
Giants.
Yeah, Giants. And
what did I say, Jets?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries, you're good. Yeah, so the Giants, this is the first time in all season that the NFC least or NFC East, whatever you want to call it, I think is interesting now. You're going to have either Washington or the Giants win this division. You're going to have either Alex Smith or Daniel Jones / Colt McCoy, whatever that figures out, in a home playoff game. They're going to be under 500. Only 2 teams have ever made the playoffs and had a home playoff game while being under 500. Guess what? Both of those teams won a playoff game. So we don't want to sleep on them just yet, but obviously Seattle hosting the Giants, going across country for the Giants. 10 is the number. Colt McCoy, I believe, will be playing. I actually like Colt McCoy in that system. If you're actually going to try and go out and, if 6-9, 6-10, 7-9, whatever's going to get it done will win you a division, Colt McCoy's your guy. He is going to protect the ball. He's not going to turn it over like Daniel Jones does, but he's also not going to chuck that ball. He's not going to run for 80 yards. He's not going to be able to run the read option. So you do kind of lose a little bit of that. But I think there's guys like Wayne Gallman and other weapons that the Giants have been able to at least utilize. Now, I'm talking a lot about the Giants. I think they cover. I don't think they win, but I think they cover the 10. A lot of it, too, is the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks is less than. It really is Russell Westbrook and DK Metcalf. And
you just said Westbrook.
Huh?
You just said Westbrook.
Yeah, we have some basketball on mind. Sorry about that. Russell.
My blunder could have been worse. It could have been Washington.
Yeah, that's true. But no, okay. So Russell Wilson. Yeah, I think he was under a lot of pressure, obviously, against the Eagles. He was able to find Metcalf, but that Giants offense and defense is better than the Eagles on both sides. So if the Eagles can cover, I definitely think the Giants can cover. Now, of course, I will throw it out there. The with or without fans, it's pretty obvious that the Seahawks are a different team at home. They are still undefeated. So there's that. Not obviously going to see the false starts and the fans getting in it, but they're obviously very comfortable there. So give me the Giants +10. I do like the over, despite the offensive struggles for Seattle. As much as they struggled, you looked up and you went, wait, DK Metcalf went for 177, very, not quietly, but as quiet as you can go for 177. I expect that to happen as well. And I can also see the Giants actually with a competent coaching staff taking advantage of a less than run defense and actually run the ball and stick to running the ball against Seattle like the Eagles should have done. And I think the Giants can keep this close under the 10, but I do like the over 48.
Okay, Raider Jim?
Yeah, I go with the covering the 10 myself. I think the Giants are going to come out. It's going to be a different game. They're playing consistent. Does that mean good? No, it means they're playing consistent, which is one of the first steps you have to take to becoming a good competitive team. I think they're going to cover the 10. On the over-under, They've only been in one game or two games this year where they have hit over the 49 mark. But with that said, Seattle just rolls up points. So if it turns into this, let's go back and forth, and Seattle seems to make enough mistakes to let the other team score points and stay in the ball game with them, and this could be one of those games. So I'm going to take, I might go even, just for the sake of the bet, take one extra half point on the Giants, make it a plus 10.5, and then take the over 47 on that.
Okay, Coach Lupian.
You know, I really do like the Giants with the plus 10. You know, it's a weird Seattle team. And I don't know what to expect, but I did go with the under 48. I'm more or less more confident with the Giants covering the 10 than the actual score of it. So that's where I'm going.
I agree there. The Giants covering, I think, you know, Giants are not good enough to be a slam dunk anytime, but I like that. And the over under could go either way. We could see the Seahawks kind of stifle them, but also stifle themselves too. So definitely want to play the spread there.
Okay, moving on to one of the two Monday games. We've got the Washington football team at the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh are the 8.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 44.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was actually just looking for my notes, and I realized, I don't have any notes on that game. But
we didn't know what the line was until
we didn't know. I mean, but look, Pittsburgh at 8.5. I talked about Alex Smith. We've talked about Chase Young. We've talked about Riverboat Ron Rivera and how much of a fan we are of really all of the guys we just talked about, as much as I can be as an Eagle fan. But it's tough in these situations. This was going to be a Sunday game, so it's only one more day to think about it, and they have plenty of time to think about it. 8.5 for Pittsburgh. I think we saw today. 8.5 for Pittsburgh's a lot. Undefeated or not. RG3, you know, you say whatever you want. You could also sit here and say that if he doesn't throw that pick 6 early in the game, who knows? Maybe Baltimore actually goes out and wins. Well, guess what? Alex Smith will probably not do. Turn the ball over and put them in that situation. So once again, I'm not sitting here ready for Washington to pull off the upset and get rid of the 0 in the loss column. But 8.5, you give me anything more than a touchdown with Pittsburgh, really anything more than a field goal with Pittsburgh, I'm going to feel okay with that, especially for a team like Washington. I love what Raider Jim said. Washington has been playing consistent. It hasn't been good, but it's been consistent, and that's why they're at the top of this division. Right now, it's not anything that, you know, people are going to write home about, but at the end of the day, January date, whatever, first part of January, one of these two teams is going to be starting, or at least with the Giants and football team, one of these two teams is going to host a playoff game. So give me Washington to hold to cover the 8.5. 44 is low. It's so tough because it's so low, but I could also see it going like that because we talked about how good both of these defenses are. Man, that's tough. I'll take the under just because I'm kind of looking over my spreadsheet and I have yet to go under. So the law of averages, I'm thinking eventually I got to put some U's up here. So I guess I'll take the under here. But I definitely like Washington to cover the 8.5.
Okay, let's go to Coach Lupian.
Yeah, I definitely like Washington to cover the 8.5. This is, even when Alex Smith, if you could imagine what Alex Smith was before the injury, he wasn't the kind of guy that was going to try to make the spectacular play, but he's going to always put the offense in a great position to make a play. And given the fact that he's coming back from such a catastrophic injury, he's still the same Alex Smith, but just less mobile. The defense is playing well And then I'm just going to base my pick of this game on the fact that Pittsburgh really did have extra days to prepare for this Baltimore team and a backup quarterback. And they didn't by any means of the stretch get, do anything offensively overexciting. And it's not the same Baltimore defenses that we're used to. I think the Washington defense is a lot more dynamic, a lot more youthful, and a lot more disciplined right now, especially with Riverboat Ron at the helm. I do like Washington to cover, but I'm going to go with the under on this. Stick with it.
Okay, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I definitely like Washington to cover the 8.5 on this one. Pittsburgh's going to be a little bit tired. They're undefeated. They're good. They're the blue collar team, but they're going to be tired. This is Wednesday. Yeah. And hopefully they stay healthy through the balance of the week, but they've got to have that day off tomorrow. They've got to have the day off tomorrow, which means they're really going to get back at it on Friday and Saturday. Those are going to be walkthroughs. On the other side of that, you've got the Washington team who has had an extra couple days off because they played on Thanksgiving last week. And by the way, at the end of that game, I was the only person in my neighborhood shouting, "We're number one," because I thought it was just fantastic. It also has that feel-good story to it. The feel-good story of Washington, Alex Smith, Ron Rivera, two guys who are looking at each other and saying, "Oh man, let's put it together one more week. Let's show them what we're about. We got this thing in gear. We've clawed our way to the top." We joke about it on the podcast, but they are positioned to win the division and to be the leaders of the division when everything wraps up and go into the playoffs. So they have a lot on the line here. They're playing for a lot. And so does Pittsburgh, because they want to maintain that undefeated record and they want to prove to everybody Chiefs are good, but they're not as good as us. Still, I think that they will prevail. They're going to win the game, but I think Washington's going to cover. And I think there's going to be more points on there than 44. Against the other teams in the East, Pittsburgh has given up 42, or no, their totals have been 42, 43, and 67. Those are their three totals on the over-under side of things. But this one, I think it's going to be one of those games where it definitely goes over 44. It might only go to 48, but it's going to be over 44. Alex Smith is just going to make a couple things happen, I think.
Okay, moving on to the game that was supposed to be tomorrow, but is now on Tuesday. It is going to be the Dallas Cowboys at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 7-point favorites, and there is no over-under at this time.
Yeah, 7 points here. And I believe we are still going under the assumption that Lamar Jackson will be out, but I don't know if that was under the assumption that they would play on Sunday. Now, once again, this is a Tuesday game, so I don't know if that's the case. They get an extra day. I'm sure we'll find out here very soon. They'll get an extra day than the Steelers, because I think that was a great point that Raider Jim just brought up. We've talked about short weeks. We've talked about fighting through it, but nobody's ever talked about, all right, it's Wednesday, you got to get ready for Monday Night Football. It's just odd. It's very odd. So at least they have the option of, or the luxury of having an extra day, them being the Ravens. Obviously, this is all kind of dependent on Lamar Jackson, and it's kind of crazy because I've been a bit of a, not detractor to Lamar. I don't think he's washed up or, anything like that, but I think everyone can admit he's taken a step back. And in these situations, when you go from being the MVP to being a guy that is average at best right now, obviously they took a step back with RG3. This is a team that's reeling. The Cowboys are interesting. They're not very good, but they work their ass off, man. They don't stop. They at least go out, make sure that they leave it all out there on the field. Like I said, they're not very good, and it pains me to say anything good really about the Cowboys, especially them as actual players, but they work their tails off. At this point with 7, assuming Lamar Jackson is playing, and that's the assumption I'm going to go with. I'm going to go Baltimore to cover the 7. If he doesn't, I don't know, stay tuned. But like I said, I just think Lamar can cover the 7. Everything else, I mean, it's COVID. It's 2020. I'm not going to go any further than that. I'll cross the RG3 bridge when I get to it if I have to. I'll put it that way.
Okay, would this be another instance of the Ravens being favored by the NFL at this point?
If Lamar Jackson plays, I think yes, 100%. Because then it's like, okay, now we found out why. Because I don't know if it's 2 weeks or 10 days, whatever the protocol is, whatever it's the positive I don't know. I think they're really going out of their way to get Lamar back in the lineup.
Because maybe they did it because the following week the Ravens have a Monday game.
It's possible, but I think you're giving the NFL way too much credit.
I'm just trying to throw out maybe reasons. I don't know. I think it's favoritism, but I'm just trying to come up with something logical on this. Raider Jim, we'll go with you next.
Yeah, Baltimore, Dallas, Baltimore at home. I got asked this morning, what do you think about the game today? And I said, well, I think it's way too early. It's way too early in the daytime and way too late in the week. But if you're going to ask me about it, Baltimore hasn't been the same team with Jackson in the lineup. And I said, well, what about RG3? I said, anymore, I think it's RG3 plus 1.5, because he's just not what he used to be. Let's face it. And when I was able to get home and turn the game on, the first thing I saw was, he faked a handoff and took a step back, and I saw the ball land on the ground. And I was like, oh, that's how it's going to be, huh? But I did say 10 points was too much even for a really good Pittsburgh team. And the Baltimore had too much on the line, and that they were going to cover the 10, which they did. So that's a good thing. Same thing with this game, same type of logic. They're going to cover the 7. It's the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have proved week in and week out, they just aren't good. They've won once on the road this year. That's it. I think the game that they put up on Thanksgiving, not to take anything away from Washington, but come on, Dallas is, they just aren't good. And Baltimore is still playing for their lives. And now they're at 6-4. So they've got a lot on the line here. And again, doesn't matter RG3, doesn't matter if it's Jackson under center, they're going to cover the 7. And again, we have no over under, so no line to talk about.
Hey, Coach Lupian.
So I gave the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt on Thanksgiving. I laid a major egg. I'm listening to Mr. First, and I'm thinking, you know what it was? These cats ate the turkey before the game. And then they played like it. So I'm talking to my confidant about it, and she's like, you gave them the benefit of the doubt. What have we talked about you giving the people the benefit of the doubt way too much? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So you know what? No benefit of the doubt this time. Regardless who's under center for Baltimore, here's what's not been talked about. Baltimore didn't have Mark Ingram and another offensive weapon, forgot his name, for Pittsburgh. And this is the weird part. They got cleared pre-game and they didn't play against Pittsburgh, and they still covered, right? They still beat the cover. But then they lost Pouncey to COVID prior to the game, and he was out, and they won't have him for this game. But that still doesn't deter me from giving the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt. They're really bad, if I could use Raider Jim's words. It's just a really bad team. And because there's no under-over, I'm going with Baltimore to cover the spread. And I just, gosh, like no more benefits of the doubt no more. Yeah. My confidant will like hearing that. Moving forward, Bryanna, where are we at?
Here's another word. It's Brandon's horrendous Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers. So Green Bay is favored by 9 and the over-under is 46.5. But there's a new word.
Yeah. At least the Eagles had the I guess good sense, or at least they didn't ruin your Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving football, the Cowboys are always there. You don't have to watch Monday Night Football. You have to watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So that's the only, I guess, solace I'll take. But
you don't have to watch either.
Eagles their wings are clipped. They're whatever you want to say. This is a team that's in shambles. The offense is the worst in the NFC, if not the NFL, probably outside of Cincinnati. Carson Wentz is essentially public enemy number 1. And I know everyone's calling for Jalen Hurts, and everyone talked about, oh, he got more reps during the week and why didn't he play, blah, blah, blah. Well, you want to know why he didn't play is because go look at the first 5 or 6 dropbacks for Carson Wentz. And no quarterback or no coach is going to throw a rookie quarterback in there and go, hey, you got 1.5 seconds to figure it out. Hope you're okay. The offensive line was as bad as it's ever been. The first week of the season, they played Washington. And they gave up 6, 7, 8 sacks. The next week, they played the LA Rams. They didn't give up a single sack. Now, I was saying Hail Marys. I was pulling out the rosary beads. I'm not even Catholic. I was saying prayers for Carson Wentz when it came to that Rams game. So I guess I do have somewhat hope there, but at the same situation, Jason Kelce, 100 games career or consecutive started. Fantastic. But we saw the age get on him. Jordan Mailata can't play the position right now, and he's at that time where he needs to be able to do it. The entire team prior on the right side of things, filling in for Lane Johnson, cannot stop a nosebleed right now. This isn't even about the Packers. The Packers are going to cover, and it doesn't even really matter what the Packers do. Literally all they have to do, rush 4, probably play man, and then have 2 safeties over the top. Maybe spy Carson Wentz, and you're going to give up 13 points, maybe 17 if the Eagles get lucky and maybe get a return. This offense, the worst part about it, there is absolutely no adjustment in the vocabulary for anybody on that coaching staff. Jim Schwartz, I've been on his back. That Eagles defense put forth a fantastic effort on Monday. They dominated on Monday. Still wasn't enough. But then we hear after the game, he goes up to DK Metcalf and tells him, oh, I was in Detroit with Megatron and you're not What are you doing? Poke the bear much? I mean, let the guy, he's already went off for you in January in the wild card game, and you're going up and talking. Just shut up. You shouldn't even have a job, let alone a voice. And you go and you poke this guy, and the only person who you don't keep down, I mean, everybody else, even Russell Wilson, they kept under control. The only person they could not keep under control was DK Metcalf. And he came out and said it straight after game.
And I have DK Metcalf on my fantasy team, so I'm happy for it.
He came out and he said, I got mad at that. And why won't you? Why wouldn't you get mad? Jim Schwartz, what are you doing? Stay in your lane. Anyways, it's terrible on all accounts. Giving up the 9, I have no problem with it. I think this can be a blowout for the Packers. The Packers are chasing the Saints. The Seahawks are chasing the trash can that's on fire, and they're well far behind. It's the last games, more than likely, for Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. Thank goodness. Thank you for what you did. But exit stage left because it's time to go. In terms of the over-under, I'll take the under 46.5. Outside of Aaron Rodgers putting up 45 points by himself, this offensive line is offensive. And unless something changes, my picks aren't. I go the other way and the under, and it's worked for me the last few weeks. I'm absolutely ashamed to be an Eagles fan. And it's not the first time. It probably won't be the last. Don't get me wrong, but this is a joke. That offensive performance where they had 4 yards with 5 minutes left in the first half of that game, they had 4 yards. It's it's just mind blowing to me that people still have jobs after that. But anyways, I'll pass it back to you guys. Sorry.
Well, hence why I said the word horrendous. And before we go to Coach Lupian, because I know he's got something to say on this, you didn't have to watch the Cowboys or the Eagles game. You didn't have to watch the Thanksgiving or the Monday Night Footballs.
That's fair.
Okay, Coach Lupian.
So here's my coaster, and it's pretty much going to be what I want to beat the gavel on. I trust Mr. First with every word that just came out. And this is my Captain Morgan's little shot glass. And I'm going to put it on that. And I'm going to take a shot. And I'm going to agree with everything he has to say.
There we go. Little Simo.
Better Jim, it's on you.
You know, if they said, hey, Elvis just walked off the stage, kid, you're next, I'd say, I got nothing after that. So that's kind of how I feel about Brandon First. You know, it's just like, what am I supposed to say after that? He nailed it all.
Just do that. Just do
that. That's it, right?
Just mic drop.
That's it.
Mic drop.
But I think he hit on every point. He hit it perfect. I don't think there's anything else to add to that. I think the Packers are going to cover. I do kind of like the over, though. Is it 46.5 right now?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling, even if it ends up being 38-10, that's it. That's all it needs to be. So I think it's a blowout. They cover, but I think they're going to get a few points because I checked the Green Bay weather, and again, really cold, but there's not going to be snow. There's not going to be rain. There's not going to be any of that. So I think it's going to be.
I just wonder if Jim Schwartz is going to go up to Randall Cobb and tell him that he's not that good before the game starts. Why not? Double down. Maybe he'll let me know so I can start one of those guys in FanDuel. Spread the wealth, Jimmy. Spread the wealth.
And you know, earlier before you went on your little monologue, I rose my hand because I was going to ask you, did Jim Schwartz just meme himself? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Up until 15 minutes after that game, I literally was like, because I've talked about Jim Schwartz and how I don't think he should have a job, but I said, I was like, he had an incredible performance today. He was fantastic. Game ends, and I see, Jim Schwartz ruined before the game. And I read that and I go, he said, what to who? I mean, shut up. I mean, there's just, anyways, I will be here all night if you keep me going. So
well, this is why I immediately went to Coach Lupian after. I saw the hand raised. I had to say my little piece and then move on. Okay, moving out of the divisions, we're going to go straight to Cleveland at Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 5.5 points, and the over-under is 54. And I'm still laughing from Brandon's reaction.
Right.
So whoever wants to go first can go first.
Let me just go here. I'm going to go Tennessee minus 5.5. They really proved me wrong against Indy last week. I am going to go with the over. Oh, why do I have under on that? I like the over 54. I think both teams could put up numbers. And if Tennessee plays the way it did last week, then that's a pretty good stamp on that.
Yeah, the AFC South for me is the opposite division, the upside down world, if you will. Everything I pick goes the opposite, unless of course my friend Maddie Patricia is involved. Tennessee.
She will no longer be.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Tennessee, Indy, it always seems to go back and forth. I think 5.5 points is a lot to lay for a Cleveland team that I think everyone's kind of expecting this team to fall or falter, and they may. But I like to see Cleveland at 5.5. I think that's a lot for a team that's positioned where they are. In terms of the over/under, I look kind of at what both of these teams have done. Tennessee is the top over team in the league at 8-2-1 with their overs, and Cleveland is 6-5 with overs. So I'm going to kind of ride with that, stick with that with the over. I think we're going to see some points, but I think if Tennessee does win, it's going to be more of a field goal situation. It's in Tennessee. So I think those weeks of whatever sleet, whatever that beautiful weather that the Cleveland biosphere gives us. So it's out of that. So I think we'll see some points. So Cleveland to cover the 5 and the over 54.
Okay, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a real good offensive game. This game is more evenly matched than people might realize. You hear Cleveland, Tennessee, and right away everybody's head goes right to Tennessee. Both teams are 8-3. This is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I think that I would go 1/2 point up, and I would say give me Cleveland +6. I think they're definitely going to cover that, and over 54. Definitely. That's going to be a high-flying game.
Okay, moving on to Jacksonville at Minnesota. Minnesota is the 9.5 point favorite, and the over-under is 52. Why don't we start with Coach Lupian?
I don't like the fact that Dalvin Cook walked off part of that game last week. Mike Glennon had a decent line last week for Jacksonville. They put up some numbers. 9.5. Is that what we're working with, or is there something else? I like Jacksonville 9.5.
52.
Under 52.
And current line is 10.
Wow.
Oh, I like Jacksonville even more now.
Yeah.
Okay, Raider.
Oh, yeah, go Raider.
Continue.
No, go for it, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I've made money with Jacksonville this year. They have covered. They've got one win, but they have this way of coming out, playing the game, and covering the spread. They're pretty good against the spread this year. They're going to be good against the spread this week. I think that they will be inside the 10. They're going to make it more competitive than people think. Weather, of course, isn't a issue in Minnesota, no matter what time of year it is. They just close the lid up and have a good time. So over 50 and even points. So I would take Jacksonville to cover the 10, over 52 on the points.
Coach, were you over under? I'm sorry.
I was under 52.
Under 52. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take what Raider Jim said just a little bit further. I always like to find it's more in college football, but also in the NFL. You don't see this happen too often, but you got Jacksonville that has a +4 win against the spread. They're actually 5-6 against the spread. So 1-10 overall, 5-6 against the spread. So they're covering. And Minnesota has been, you want to talk about an inconsistent stock. That is a stock that has been up and down.
Yeah.
And as bad as we talked about how bad the Dallas Cowboys are, well, guess what? This team lost to that team. So Minnesota laying down 9.5, or as you say 10 now, all day. It does seem to be Mike Glennon's show. Gardner Minshew is apparently healthy, but they're going to roll with Mike Glennon. I kind of liked what he did. Like you said, they're covering games. Now, the fans and coaches of Jacksonville don't really care about all that. 1-10 is still 1-10. But I do think they're in somewhat of the right direction. I'm not going to go as far as to say they're kind of like the Dolphins were last year, but they're I think they're moving in the right direction. So give me Jacksonville +10. In terms of the over under, I'm just going to go with the under. I think it's just too much. Coach brought it up with Dalvin Cook. That's kind of it. I know Thielen's out there, and Justin Jefferson is an absolute monster. And Coach, you remember draft night, who I was yelling for when they got Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson. I was yelling Justin Jefferson's name. I had to put myself on mute because I had about a 5-minute rant that I had just, anyways. So there are weapons there. So there aren't as many weapons as if you take Dalvin Cook off the field, is what I was trying to say. So I'll give me the under 52. I'm definitely playing Jacksonville +9.5, or like I said, in this situation, +10 is where we found it. Give me the over 52, but not terribly confident.
Okay, going off of this really quick. Obviously, I've made new friends in a group called Women in Sports. I've been talking to one who's a Vikings fan. She's like, yeah, we've been so inconsistent. As soon as I told her Dalvin Cook was out, she's like, we're screwed. And I'm like, hey, your team pulled it out. She's like, yeah, barely. So she doesn't even have faith in her team, just like I don't. And I will get to that one later. But shout out to Sarah Fuller, who made history by being the first female to play on a football team and one of the Power 5 conferences. I kind of had to do it. Okay, moving on to Cincinnati at Miami. Miami is 11.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 42. Raider Jim, we will start with you.
Yeah, there you are. I can say it again. Cincinnati is just a bad team. What can you say? They haven't won on the road this year. They're not going to win in Miami. 11.5, though, that's a lot of points.
Yes.
So I would take Miami straight up on this one. But Cincinnati, 42, I even think Miami's going to run some points, put some points on the board. So I'll take Miami straight up and over 42 on this one. Cincinnati's just not good.
Yeah, Cincinnati's terrible. I'm going to go Miami minus 11.5. I know we don't really know who's going to play. Tua may be healthy. He may not. I think even with Fitzpatrick, they cover it. Just when I was getting my Allens figured out, Brandon Allen has emerged. So Brandon Allen in Cincinnati really did not play terribly well and is going to have some trouble, I think, against Miami, a team that they know they're better than this team. They know that they should beat this team handily, and Miami's been on a bit of a spiral. I think a lot of us drank their Kool-Aid, and I'm not saying that we're not drinking it anymore, but they've definitely cooled on a lot of people's palates. So I'm gonna take Miami at 11.5 for this spreadsheet. It's way too much in terms of actually betting them. What I kind of like to do on Sundays is maybe pick some of the more 3 or 4 of the more lopsided money lines, parlay them up and get 2.5 to 1 odds on them and feel okay about it. Doesn't always go well, but if you're going to play this one, that's how I would. But for this podcast, I'll go Miami minus 11.5. And in terms of the over under at 42, I'm going to take the under just because I don't know how Cincinnati scores. It's bad in Cincinnati. I don't think it would have been a ton of fun if Burrow was there, but it would have been a hell of a lot more fun. So that's what I got.
Hey, Coach Lupian.
Yeah, actually, 11.5 is just really high. I like, man, it's like my tennis lessons. I give a compliment and then it goes to shit. So I've been complimenting Miami's defense and it's just gone to shit. With that said, I don't know who's under center for, is it Brandon? You said Brandon Allen, right?
Brandon Allen. That's who was yesterday or last week. I'll be honest. Finley, I didn't dive too deep.
And 11.5 is still 11.5 is still much. I like Tua at 11.5. I actually like Fitzpatrick at 12. So I like Miami, but I also like the over on this.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Gotcha.
Moving on. Oh, yeah. You continue.
No. I don't know where I was going with that. I thought it was. I thought I didn't make my pick yet. Sorry.
No, you made your pick. Okay, moving on to Indianapolis at Houston. Indianapolis is the 3.5-point favorite, and the over/under is 51.5. So let's start with Brandon first.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier. The AFC South for me is a mystery. Indy minus 3.5 over Houston. I think the Will Fuller news really hurts the Texans in terms of his suspension. Him being out, Deshaun Watson just has to be looking around, just looking at name tags going, the one guy that didn't get along with D-Hop isn't even here anymore. It's literally just me. You got to feel for him. The 3.5, I feel like there have been every single time that I've jumped on the Colts this year, no matter what happens, they lose. Not just, And so I'm so torn here. I'm not going to play this game unless something crazy changes in the real life spectrum. But here I'm just staying away. I think the loss of Will Fuller, I think the just kind of bad taste that has to be in everybody's mouth in Houston still. Give me Indy. I'd like to get it down to 3 I mean, I'd love to get it down to 2.5, but I don't like 3.5. So I'll bet buy a half point to say Indy -3. I like the under here, similar to Houston. They're missing weapons. And Indy I think also that defense can keep Indy under 28 points, which would help the under. So give me Indy to cover and the under.
Okay, Coach Lupian.
I alluded to the change in the offensive mindset for Houston prior to Thanksgiving. And look what they put up. They put up big numbers, but against a horrible team. Horrible defense, horrible team. Won't be the same. 3.5 is pretty tight, I think. But I think that's because of the egg or the beatdown Tennessee put on Indy last week. So it's tight. Indy needs to get back on track by any means necessary. And if that means outscoring their opponents, that's what they're going to have to do, on top of having a very decent defense. I do like Indy to cover the 3.5. And I did go over with it because the fact that Houston did change their offensive mindset, they're putting points up, and that shouldn't change what's going on in Indy because they'll just put points up, especially on this weak Houston defense.
Okay, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon first, what he was saying to start off. It seems like every time I've put money on Phillip Rivers and the Colts, just something goes wrong, almost like he can hear me making my pick and he knows how I talked about him when he was a Charger. So he's like, I'll teach you, pal. It started at the beginning of the season. The season opener for them. Jacksonville has one win on their schedule. Guess who they beat? They beat the Colts. It's like, well, there it is. And then after that, then I thought that's the writing on the wall for the Colts. And then they come out and they started, they changed things. They turned it around. This one to me can go either way, but I think Indianapolis is in that 7-4 position where they know that, they do have everything to lose. They've got to stay competitive to keep their playoff picture looking as positive as possible. They got to put together a good game. Very disappointing game for them last week. So I think they will come out. I show 3 as the current line, not 3.5, but I would probably buy an extra half point to go 3.5, just to make it safe. And over 51.5, I think there's going to be points on there, just like Coach said.
Okay, moving on to the team that I don't trust at this point. The Detroit Lions are at the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears beat them earlier on, and they are the favorites by 3 points, and the over-under is 44.5. I mean, look, Bears started off great, and then they have lost just about every game since. I do not trust them. They are very inconsistent. I think they're going to beat Detroit, but Trubisky is starting, so I don't have faith.
You know what? If Trubisky could just play the second half, I have all the faith in the world that Chicago will cover that. But, I don't know. I think Detroit's still celebrating the loss of Matt Patricia. It might be over their head where they're partying too hard. I'll go with Chicago to cover the 3. But I do think it's going to stay under 44.5.
You Raider Jim?
Yeah, well, if you were in the zoo, it didn't matter if you were looking at a bear or a Bruin. They were all bad last week. I had to do it. I'm sorry. Welcome to the club.
The Bruins did beat Arizona, but yes, San Diego State did beat them. I will give you that. But I still have faith in my Bruins.
And that's what's important. That's it.
But I don't have faith in my Bears.
Stay true to your teams. That's what I say. In this one, quite honestly, I think it's going to be that turnaround effect for Detroit. I think it's a little bit of celebratory. They come out. It's that division game. Let's face it, neither team is fighting for the Super Bowl right now.
Chicago's an 8th in the NFC, though.
They are. There's pride involved. I think Detroit's going to come out. I think Detroit is going to, I would take Detroit +3 on this one, and I would stay under 44.5. I looked at the Chicago weather, and again, cold, the Chicago wind, but that's about it. No rain, no snow.
Well, I'll finish this up, and I brought props. I forgot to pick up a 6-pack. But you know what we do for all of our fallen homies, you know, you got to pour a little out. And normally you pour it on the ground, but I'm in the you got to. So I'm pouring a little out for my homie and Sugar P, as I used to call him, a man who put a lot of money in my pocket, Matt Patricia. My goodness, we didn't know what we had when you were here. And he didn't die. He just got fired. So don't worry that much, but made a lot of money and just very quickly, just like that, he's gone. I was very, very sad when the news came down. I'm going to miss making money off of Matt Patricia and his mistakes. I hope that some team, hey, Chargers,
nope.
Chargers, you want to go pick him up? That would be absolutely fantastic if you want to keep the money flowing back to Brandon. But in terms of this game, I think when you fire a coach mid-season, you get obviously, and I know Captain Obvious, you get one of two reactions. It's either head down in the dumps or, whoa, look what this team did. And now that interim coach is now the head coach. And we're going to see Darrell Bevel, who's, you know, the offensive coordinator, the offensive side of things. He will be the interim head coach. I think we all know without being in that locker room that there were probably more smiles than frowns when the news came down in that locker room. I think Detroit not only covers, I think Detroit wins this game. Check out the money line. I think they take advantage of a bad Mitchell Trubisky. I think Mitch Trubisky, unfortunately, is that I don't want to say this saying that he does this, but he's kind of that stoner who just somehow, some way has gotten really lucky. And he's like in AP honors and things like that. And you're like, what are you doing here? But somehow, some way, he just always is in the right place at the right time. I think, obviously, when he got benched for Nick Foles, he looked at it and went, hey, I'm still getting paid and I don't have to prepare as much. And then Nick Foles goes down. He went, oh, wait, you need me to get back out there? Like, let me finish these Cheetos. Like, that's what I kind of look at Mitchell Trubisky right now. I have no faith in him, and I'm going to bet against him. Is this my new Matt Patricia? That's the question I might have for all of us.
No.
Mitch Trubisky.
It's your new bromance.
I hope so. Well, my new money, my new sugar daddy.
Your new sugar daddy.
I told you I don't have faith in them, but no.
So, here we go. Yeah, give me Detroit. And then in terms of the over-under, I'm going to take the over. I think Detroit's offense gets rolling, like I said, with Darrell Bevel. Matt Patricia was a defensive coach, and I think he just wanted to be that Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin guy. Well, guess what? You got players on that field that need to put points up on the board, and I think Darrell Bevel understands that. And I think the Lions look around and go, hey, we got an inside shot to really one of the top assistants in the game. And if this goes well, I think that interim tag can be taken off, honestly.
Hey, we got an inside shot at getting a higher draft pick. But let me finish off with prediction number 3. Oh. Your boy Matt Patricia will be back on staff with Belichick. There it is.
That's a good call.
Yeah, that's better than the second one I came up with.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think I like both of your picks, the first two. I really like your third because I think the third one's going to come in, but your first two were very low risk, high reward because no one's going to jump down your throat if it doesn't go down. And if it does go down, oh man, we're copying that. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, we're sending that to all the major networks. So yeah, that's good to know there.
Okay, moving on so I can get away from all of this.
Okay, one more thing.
No. Oh boy, we're gonna lose our host here in a minute. You're good, Bryanna. You're good. We're just messing with you.
It's only fair. I do it to you.
Wait a second. Raider Jim's line, whether it was a bear or a Bruin.
Yeah, that was.
Only fair. I do it to you.
I love the Aztec red you're wearing, though. I love the Aztec red you're wearing.
Oh.
I wore this for the change up earlier today. I'm like, I'm not changing shirts for this.
Or is that Northridge? Or is that Northridge?
It's also Northridge.
Yeah, you could thank Terrell Gomes for that W.
Too soon. I might have to introduce this next game.
But hey, Lamine Janae just got picked by the Sixers. He signed with the Sixers. At least we got a draft pick. Or somebody that signed. But it's only fair I do it to you, even though I haven't had a chance to do it to Coach Lupian yet, because his team's on a freaking roll.
Wait a second. Malachi Flynn got picked 29th. I mean, you can't compare that. Where did your guy, come on, Bryanna, you got to come stronger than that.
I'm done. Okay, moving on to the Rams at the Cardinals. The Rams are favored by 3 points. The over-under is 48.5. Whoever wants to start can start, because I'm just done.
I'll hop in first. I think Arizona is in a bit of a maybe tailspin. Not so much that they're going to fall out of the playoff picture, I think, but they're struggling to keep pace with Seattle. And on the opposite side, I think the Rams know that they have to win this game, knowing what Seattle has in terms of such a kind of easy game that they're going to take care of the Giants, I think we would have to assume. So both of these teams know that they got to win to keep pace. I like the Rams here to cover the 3. In terms of the over under, I'm going to keep it under the 48.5. Obviously, look, if I'm going with the Rams winning this game, I'm predicating the fact that they're winning it by what they do best, and that is defense. So if Kyler Murray gets rolling, then yeah, the Rams probably don't win a shootout with this team. So I'm going to take the Rams and the under 48.5.
Well, just because you brought up Kyler Murray and if he gets rolling, I actually went with Rams to cover the 3 and the over 48.5. Just because that defense, they may contain him in the pocket, but that's what the Cardinals offense is predicated against. Getting them out, bootlegging them, and finding weapons. And we know what a great weapon he has in DeAndre Hopkins. So Rams -3. I'm going with the 48.5 over.
Okay, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I look for Arizona to have a good game, a stronger game at home. It doesn't matter if there's fans in the stands or not. And the Rams are only 3-3 on the road this year. So I'm looking for the Arizona offense to turn around and do one of those games that they put together, and some of those games they weren't supposed to win that they did. This is going to be one of those games. So take Arizona to cover the 3. And then also Arizona, I think the total is going to be over 48.5.
You know, Raider Jim, I had the same thought process about Arizona being home. I just don't have faith in their defense, much like I had in San Francisco's defense last week. Just for anybody listening, as far as like my mindset and my thought processes, I try to compare week to week as far as what those teams might be facing. And it was just the defensive alone that, because I don't like Goff. You guys have probably heard me over the entire time. I don't have faith in Goff to do anything great, but I do like their defense, and I just don't like Arizona's defense as much as I like their offense. And pretty boy, what's his name? The coach, Kingsbury. He's an offensive guy, so I went with the over. So I was just taking that into consideration. But yeah, I could see what you're absolutely saying with Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona's total, their total points on all their games very high, 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like 48.5 for that game. Seems just low to me.
Okay, moving on to San Francisco. Monday Night Football, you've got Buffalo Bills at the San Francisco 49ers. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 48.
I'll start this one off. Just to throw this one out there. Keep it in mind. This game will be in Arizona. It will be the second game in as many days in that stadium. Now, the stadium's beautiful. How they keep the grass together is fine. So I don't think that'll be a factor. But just something to keep in mind. Buffalo -2.5. It's really, for me, at the end of the season, I really don't care what anybody else's record or even San Francisco's record is. Well, I shouldn't say that, but if San Francisco keeps on this and at least, 8-8, 7-9, Kyle Shanahan and that staff have to get coach of the year, coaching staff of the year. What they've been able to do, keep things together with guys that, I mean, we joked about the Broncos. That was kind of what their situation was, not as extreme, but in a lot of other positions on a weekly basis. And these guys continue to go out and coach these guys up to the point where they go out and they beat the Rams. They're competitive in pretty much every game that they play. I just like Buffalo a little bit more in this one. I think Buffalo has it figured out. Sean McDermott is a hell of a coach. And Buffalo, they really want home field advantage. Very few teams have that home field advantage like Buffalo. We go Green Bay and Chicago with the elements, New England, but Buffalo, I can't remember the last time. I think it was probably the Music City. Well, I know that was the last time Buffalo was in there, but I can't remember the last time. Obviously, Jim Kelly days were the last time we saw a home game in Buffalo, and there was probably a lot of snow involved whenever you're looking at that. So they would love to get that number 1 seed. Now, it would really take the the Steelers a lot to come down, but I really like Buffalo to cover only 2.5 against a depleted, gutsy but depleted Niners team that's technically on the road, even though they're at home. 48 is too much. I think these numbers, that's too much for both of these teams. I know Josh Allen can put up points, but I don't know how San Francisco kind of matches that. So I'll take the under there. But I really like Buffalo to cover for sure.
Okay, let's go Raider Jim.
Yeah, I like Buffalo to cover on this one. 49ers are good. 49ers can put up a game, but against the spread, they got 6 wins against the spread this year, but all those are much bigger spreads than 2.5. And I think on this one, it's going to be the Bills' neutral site also. Nice dry field. You know, there's going to be climate control, the whole 9 yards. Everything is stacking up in favor of Buffalo, the way I see the game.
Under or over, Raider Jim?
Over, under. What do we got? Over, under on this?
48.
48. I would go under on that.
Yeah. You know, I see kind of a lot of similarities to last week's Buffalo Chargers game with this. And then there's that element of San Francisco being on the road. And I just think that defense could only do so much week to week to week to week. And they played up for a Saints team. They played darn up for a Rams team last week. Yeah. And I just don't think 2.5 is a really good number for them. It's a really low number. I'm really surprised. But like Raider Jim alluded to, they've covered the spread on high spreads because of their deficiencies on offense. 2.5 is really nothing. Right. I'm going to give Buffalo the -2.5, and I'm going to stay with that under.
And they're actually at 2 right now.
Nice. Even better for Buffalo. Get on it.
Okay, so that was the last of our games. Any final thoughts?
I'll start final thoughts off. Obviously, as an Eagles fan, I won't go off again, but just it's time for the Super Bowl luster, the Super Bowl shine. It's gone. Everyone who was there, you no longer are allowed to pull that card out. It's what have you done for me lately? And no one's really been able to answer that. So every Eagle has to look in the mirror. It's really their last chance as well. This past weekend, can they win this game? No, probably not. Will they win this game? Definitely not. So it's going to be tough for the Eagles. And I will say one last thing for the Eagles. There is no team in football, maybe in all of sports, that is benefiting more from no fans being in the stands. And I am not talking about road games, folks. If you could only imagine how Monday night would have been halfway through the second quarter when the Eagles have 4 total yards. I was at that Christmas night game the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They were about to clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC East. They beat unfortunately, Raider Jim's Raiders on that Christmas night. And the fans were still booing that team. That team would go on to win the Super Bowl. So you can only imagine the vitriol this team would get if they had home fans. They really have to be excited or have to be fortunate that there are no home fans, because people would be crying on the sideline. But that's all I got. Go Birds, but more than likely that coaching staff needs to go home.
I hope you're not talking about
go the Birds.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Bryanna.
I was going to say more so down with the Birds because they're not winning.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I'll still be there pulling for them.
I hope you're not talking about them dirty birds.
Oh, no. I
had to ask, but with my final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to join you guys on Wednesday. I look forward to another exciting weekend of NFL football. Listeners, get on those numbers now, because as we've seen, those numbers start to climb. And for a lot of teams that got burnt the other night, 6.5 when we were on here talking about at 5 and 5.5. Right. Hey, what can I say? So, and I picked them to cover that, and they just, that 6.5 just got them. Remember, or just got it. So, thank you again, and it's always a pleasure, Bryanna. We'll be talking. Stay with us. It gets better.
Raider Jim?
Yeah, final thought from me. We've made it, week 12, week 13. NFL has been lucky, and we've been lucky. We prospered from that. When I say prosper, I mean giving us something to take our minds away from that, which is COVID, which has been around and ruined so much of sports for us this year. Kudos to Major League Baseball for what they were able to pull off, the NBA. And let's hope that we're giving kudos to the NFL, but let's hope they play it a little safer and that the players come out of this faring well. But now it's going to start really counting. It should get a little easier if we really know what we're talking about to put together the winners, the losers with the different playoff look this year. It's going to be a fun way to close out 2020 and go into the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. And of course, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday night, and appreciate my opportunity to be here and talk football and betting with you guys.
Always a charmer. Always the charmer of the group. He has the comb over. He has the George Clooney gray. I'm working with Stubbs.
You must have forgotten how in the first 5 minutes of this show, I think we all went out of our way to take shots at the Raiders. So,
to be fair, we all take shots at your Eagles too.
Well, hey, I'm the one who's taking I'm at the front of the line.
I don't know. I think that Raider Jim had that Bears and Brew. I think that line just kind of superseded it all.
I can't wait. I can't wait for next week's Bryanna introducing Raider Jim. I
always tell friends and family.
If they lost to the Jets, you better believe that there's going to be something.
Oh, yeah. Raider Jim.
Because they lost to the Falcons.
Yeah.
If you lob it, I'm going to swing.
I lobbed it last week, and you didn't swing.
I know.
Okay, well, that's it for us. Follow us on Twitter, myself at bwinner12, Brandon First at First Report, that is FERST Report, Coach Lupian at Portland 76er, and Raider Jim at Raider Jim 1090. So stay safe, everyone, stay healthy, and we will see you next week. That's it for us.
Thank you, guys. It's always a blast.